सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः In the last mantra that we saw yesterday, Shravanayapi Bahuvir Yonalabhyaha Shrunvato Api Bahavo Yamna Vidyuhu. Though there are many that speak about it and yet have reached nowhere. In the second chapter also of Bhagavad Gita, we had a similar thought. Ascharyavat pasyati kaschidenam ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyaha ascharyavat chainamanya shrunoti shrutvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit. So the origin of that thought is here in Kathopanishad. Partho vatsa sudhir bhokta dugdham gopala nandanam. So if the Shruti was to be seen as the cow will yield milk only when it sees its calf. So therefore Partha was that calf. And Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna was the milkman, cowherd, who was milking this cow of Shruti. And it seems like the fattest cow that he milked throughout Bhagavad Gita was Kathopanishad. Because there's so much of cross-reference from Kathopanishad directly into Bhagavad Gita. Ascharyo vakta kushalosya labdha ascharyo jnata kushalanusishtaha. So here, Nachiketa is being patted on his back that your choices have been in the right direction. And your sharpness of intellect, the teacher loves a sharp student. And that sharp student was keeping the teacher on his toes. Constantly, that very logic which was to dissuade him, he turned it around in such efficient way to make that as his own logic and say, therefore, O Yama, because it is challenging, I would like to have challenge. Not some simple things that which don't have permanency. Continuing in his stride as to this knowledge being subtle, just that if anybody can find the vocabulary to speak on it doesn't make a teacher, a guru. Nowadays that word guru is being used for everything. It is used for the most adhyatmic endeavor. Just like every word loses its purpose and we keep using it, there are several words that can be taken for example. Sorry is one word. It has lost its sense of meaning and direction. Similarly, guru. Even the fellow that teaches in the college or forces the student to some vices because he is a bully, that bully is often referred to as Kyo Guru, kaise ho? The teacher and the lecturer are not treated as Guru. This idiot is treated as a Guru. That is how we have removed the sanctity from the word. The one who teaches is Acharya. The one who is guiding us towards that spiritual unfoldment, such one alone can be called a Guru. Ukaraha andhakaraha, rukarastan nivartakaha. Andhakara of or the ignorance of one's own true nature, and the one who removes that ignorance alone can be called a Guru. So here in that stride he says, in the 8th mantra, page number 85. न नरेणावरेण प्रोक्त एषः सुविज्ञेयः बहुधा चिन्त्यमानः अनन्यप्रोक्ते गतिरत्र नास्ति अनीयान् ह्यतर्क्यम् अनुप्रमाणात् न नरेण अवरेण प्रोक्त एषः सुविज्ञेयः बहुधा चिन्त्यमानः. नरेण अवरेण, avarena narena, by that intellect or that individual. Avarena, the one who has a lower form of intellect or grasp. Prokta eshaha, when they, because of their intellectual capacity of not understanding it or not being able to correctly present the thought, na suvigneyaha, the letter na that comes right in the beginning of the mantra has to be transported just before suvigneyaha to make the right sense. Mantra is right. Where should that na be applied is what I am telling. Na suvigneyaha bahudha chintyamanaha. Even though it is explained and spoken about several times, bahudha chintyamanaha, and yet it remains not understandable, not reachable. So the Guru also should be somebody who is well established in the experience of it and can translate that experience into the language that the student can understand. Whatever the language is a student, therefore the understanding of the student's mindset is also required. It cannot be that I will speak only in this standpoint. It is up to you if you raise your standard or not. No, the Guru's job is to get to the level of the student and then lift that understanding from wherever they are embedded in, to release them from those clutches and to raise their understanding into the experience. The pointers are thus guiding. But when the teacher itself does not have the understanding or experience, we used to have a physics teacher. If the guide, the text, there is a guide. He would not teach from the text, he would only use the guide. And whatever problems were solved in the guide, that is what he would write on the board. And we were mischievous kids. We would purposefully ask those questions that have been solved 1/4 the way in the guide itself. He later caught up to it, and right as he's explaining, he would give those questions. I said, do it as your homework. Because it was not in his capacity. Imagine when the teacher is bad. See, if an engineer is bad, a construction engineer is bad, one building, one bridge, afterwards, nobody will give them a contract. If a doctor is bad, one or two patients, and then nobody goes to that doctor. But if the teacher is bad, and if the teacher is teaching for about 25-30 years, and each day they have to take at least about 5 to 6 classes, so that is what they repeat. In each class, they have about 45-50 children. So, yearly, about 300 students, and for about 30 years, how many students have been ruined? I'm talking of the secular sciences that is being taught. Close to about 9,000, 10,000 children. Their future is lost. And here was the tradition wherein the Gurukulas were kept high above any transactional level of business sense. Therefore, knowledge was never sold. Knowledge was given to the right appropriate student. Knowledge was never sold. It was the Guru Dakshina system. Nowadays, it is heart-aching to see that, both the teacher and the parents of the taught, they're ready to throw in the money just so that there is, that is not the system. That is not our way of life. The focus should have been that the knowledge should be kept far above from transactional business sense. Narena, avarena, the one who does not have the proper understanding or intellect and the experience thereof, through them, na suvigneyam bahuda chintyamanaha. Through them, it cannot be a possibility to uplift the student for the understanding to become the experience of the self. Ananya prokte gatiratra nasti aniyan hi atarkyam anupramanat. Gatihi atra anya nasti. There is no possibility of any other method to be employed. That this experience of the self is through this jnana alone. Therefore, the teacher should be ananya prokte. Narena avarena is one category. Someone who is other than that. Other than that, the one who is not avarena, but varena. Varena meaning the most choicest one, the best in that field, the one who has that implicit experience. Why is it that important? That just because there is a superflowing vocabulary, it doesn't cut it. The experience has to match that vocabulary. Because it is unlike the other sciences. This particular adhyatma is aniyan hi atarkyam anupramanat. By mere intellectualization and arguments, this cannot be achieved. The intellect has to grow to have an intuitive sense developed. Because whatever is given is only a pointer. Whatever is seen is only a pointer. Through the pointer, now you have to visualize, understand, assimilate, and become one with that which is being pointed. So therefore it has to be very precise in the way it is being pointed. Aniyan. Why should that precision be the focal point? Because this is a very subtle concept. I shouldn't say concept. It is a very subtle aspect of my own being. That which is pointed at. Atarkyam. It is not about arguments and though everything that which is presented is logical. And until I understand the logic, there has to be the sincere questioning to understand the logic. But logic can only take us so far. Beyond that logic, there has to be that intuitive growth of the individual's intellect to grasp the pointed as my own true nature. Atarkyam. And then last word that he says, Anupramanat. For the rest of the worldly experience, we have all different kinds of pramana. As you are walking up the ramp to come to this particular hall to sit and listen to Kathopanishad, if that entire pathway is wet, then you deduce the conclusion. Oh, this area had rain. Then Swamiji, was it raining today? No. The pipe, the garden pipe which should have been there, they turned it on. They forgot that it was on the ramp and it started overflowing. Oh, there is a pramana. Through that pramana, you make the anumana. Anumana, the deduction. Then there is pratyaksha pramana. You see that the rains are falling, seeing that you immediately say, oh, it is raining. Pratyaksha pramana, anumana pramana. You infer the knowledge. Both these techniques cannot be valid in the field of spirituality. In the secular sciences, seeing is believing. But then we also understand that all that which we see is not what is. For example, we say the sun rises. In fact, the actuality is the sun never rises, the sun never sets. It is this earth that is rotating on its own axis. Therefore, there is a seeming appearance as though it is rising and setting. I'm seeing it. But that which you see is not that which you can conclude that that is the right knowledge. The sky is not blue, but it appears blue. Sky doesn't have a color, but it appears blue. This is the first thing that we see. The second thing, which is an extension, is the oceans are not blue. There are places on this earth wherein, like Seychelles, Maldives, Andaman Nicobar, the Caribbean islands, where there was this island called Saint Martin. The beaches are white sand, pristine white sand. And you can, I could get all the way, almost 1 mile into the ocean, and it was only till my waist. It's a sea, a lower depth. And having gone there, you can see the coral reefs. Just standing there, you can see the coral reefs. All different designs of aquatic beings. The color spectrum is so rich. It's clear waters that you can see it. And then as you lift your head to the horizon, I could count 14 different shades of blue. Anywhere from clear water to turquoise green. Clear water to light blue to dark blue to deep blue to purple to turquoise green. Oh, it's a spectacle to watch. I can see those colors, and yet it is the mere reflection of the water of the sky in the water, and depth of that water releases the refraction of that color. But there is no color to it. I see it. It is pratyaksha. Pratyaksha cannot be taken for absoluteness in what I experience. Anumana pramana. Wherever you see smoke, anumana is, the inference is, there should be fire. I realized that this example should not be taken up with the kids. Just for them to understand, I was saying, wherever you see smoke, there is, and that fellow said, should be a cigarette. Whatever that fellow's experience has been, exposure has been, his deduction and inference from that is limited. But nonetheless, there also there should be fire. That is when there is smoke. Sometimes it may not be smoke. It may be the misty early morning where there is the fog and it might appear as smoke. Especially if you go into Delhi or California, the pollution is so high that it is not just fog, it is smog. There is no fire there. Our deductions may be wrong. Therefore, pratyaksha anumana cannot be taken as the right means of knowledge. Pramana means the right means of knowledge. Anupramanat, that which is the Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana, that which the Shruti is laying out in a logical sense. Having understood it, we may also adapt as a sideline supporting the Shruti Pramana is Aptavakya. Aptavakya of that particular teacher who has that experience of what is being pointed by the Shruti, and therefore it supports the Shruti Vakya. There is a Aptavakya. Apta, the one who is a well-wisher. His words, his or her words. And then, based on that, one has to understand that it is still a pointer. And that pointer being subtle, that method of pointing also should be very subtle. It cannot be a goal logic. And then claim, I am saying it straightforward, but your logic is as straightforward as a jalebi. वही गोल घुमा रहे हैं. And then conclude, if you have enough Shraddha, you will know it. No, you cannot shove it under the rug, saying that because of the lack of clarity being provided, you put the onus on the student and say, you lack the Shraddha, therefore you are not understanding. To bring in that Shraddha is also the responsibility of the teacher, wherein the value of it is so beautifully extolled that the student, in his all eagerness, wants to develop that Shraddha. Students come from different backgrounds. Some are Uttamadhikari, some are Madhyamadhikari, some are Adhamadhikari, some are gone for there is no chance. Even to such, the Guru has to open the doors and provide the means for them to uplift. And that subtle and precise should be the pointer pointed. That it should invoke the intuitiveness of the intellect. Therefore, the quality of the Shruti, without destroying the purposefulness of that Shruti, Otherwise, it becomes purely based out of convenience, that you twist and turn the Shruti for your own convenience. That should not be the way. It should be to the precision which the Shruti points. Therefore, many times when I am speaking, and we have gotten, because of the English language, and English language is heavily influenced by the Abrahamic influence. Therefore, the words, the choice of words that has to be used also should be very careful. Therefore, some examples, I don't translate prarabdha as destiny. In the Abrahamic sense, that word destiny itself means you're destined to have that experience and you could do nothing about it. It's a fatalistic concept. But when we translate prarabdha, that is not what we mean. But that is what the word comes with. Instead of using that vocabulary and carrying that baggage, which the Shruti is not, therefore one has to be careful as to how it has to be interpreted. The other day I said, why, inadvertently we ended up using the word soul, but that soul has a very concocted meaning. Therefore, the best word to translate it would be the very word jiva. Maybe if you extend it, individuality. Beyond that, if you use the word soul, it comes with a different baggage. So it has to be precise. Continuing, he says, Naisha tarkena matirapaneya प्रोक्तान्येनैव सुज्ञानाय प्रेष्ठ यां त्वम् आपः सत्यधृतिर्बतासि त्वां दृङ्नो भूयान्नचिकेतः पृष्टा नैषा तर्केण मतिः आपनेया. See, the basic infrastructure built to understand the self, a logical approach is given. Why? That is how our antakarana, our buddhi works. But all the concepts of different logical approaches and tarka is meant for the buddhi to find a sense of peace, that it is in the logical direction. Otherwise, it soon becomes a dogma. Without that logical approach, without the reasoning supporting that logic, it becomes a dogma. It is said so, therefore it is what it is. That is what we end up concluding. Then it becomes a dogma. And wherever there is a dogma, the stench of staleness pervades. Tarka is a requirement, but with the understanding that any tarka can take you only so far. Beyond that tarka, the buddhi has to invoke from its own depth the intuitiveness of understanding. जो इशारों को समझ ले, just with the pointers, that intuitiveness had to be invoked by the student. Naisha tarkena matihi apaneya. The logic can be understood so that the entire framework falls in the right appropriate balance. And that is only a launching pad. Beyond that, tarka cannot help. Why? Because that which is pointing is not a concept. Buddhi can function very clearly in the realm of concepts. And I, the self, is not a concept. Therefore, whatever I define myself as falls short because that is a concept. The sense of being is beyond that conceptualization. Therefore, when we are going through the Shruti, all the concepts are to understand the realm of matter and how to transcend it. Having transcended it, to abide in the self, logic is not the reason. Logic is not the framework. There is only Swanubhuti. And that Swanubhuti to become my own experience, the intellect has to be pushed into that realm of intuitive wisdom. Naisha tarkena matirapaniya प्रोक्ता अन्येनैव सुज्ञानाय प्रेष्ठ praishta. What a beautiful word to address the student. You see, you are very dear to me, says the teacher. Why would he not? Because very rarely you find a good student. And those who have been in the teaching realm understand how rare it is to find a good student. It's not that easy. At the most, you will find an average student too. Therefore, when Nachiketa is standing in front of Yamadharma Raja, he must be beaming ear to ear with a beautiful smile. That Yama who is always shown and portrayed as a very harsh individual, he must be having a smile of his life, looking at the student. Preshta, hey Preshta, proktan anyenaiva sujnanaya. When somebody who is established in the self points at it appropriately, precisely, then it becomes very easy to understand. Because understanding one's own self is not a difficult task. It is when we are layered up and attached to our own processes of mind and intellect, that is what makes it difficult. Yam tvamapaha satya dhritir patasi. And especially with that kind of mindset that you come, oh Nachiketa, it will help you. Why? You are convinced from within that anything from the outside world is not that which you have to hold on to. And you understand its value, that you have asked for the methods to help people get beyond their suffering. But you are not somebody that is adapting that method for yourself. You have given it as a sense of relief. But you see that that sense of relief is also not something which can be understood as the ultimate thing or a purpose of life. And you gave up with such ease. Because you are convinced of the higher. Satya dhritir patasi. Convinced of the higher, come what may that the life may bring. Achanchala dhrada nishtha should be there. Otherwise, a little thing happen in life. Health is a little shaky. Wealth has become a little shaky. Assets have become a little shaky. What gets tossed out of the window? The entire pursuit of that supreme becomes not secondary but tertiary. बाद में देख लेंगे. See, in our tradition, Gurudev's Guru Maharaj, Swami Tapovanam Maharaj, in his very end days, close to 1950s. If you see those era photos of Swami Tapona Maharaj, it looks like he has become thinned down and only a skin covering the skeletal structure. And he was not doing well. His health was not doing well. So as he was leaning onto the wall, if you have gone to Uttarkashi, you see that little veranda of his room, mud patched room. That little veranda, he was leaning onto the wall where the door is. So somebody, knowing that he was not doing well, he brought in a pillow. कि महाराज थोड़ा सा आराम से बैठ जाइए. Then he took that, placed it to the side, and leaned forward. And the statement that he makes, thank you for reminding that the body does not require this pampering. I mean, heights of Vairagya. Wherein the clarity is that I am not this body is so profound. Unshaken understanding. That is called Satya Dhritir Badasi. To hold on to that with such firm conviction. When it is said, I am not this Deha, I am not this Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. How convinced am I? Is it only for convenience that in the Vedantic lecture series, and you said, yes. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect. As soon as I get out, कॉफी थोड़ा ठंडा हो गया, ये पाल्टे कॉफी. दाल में थोड़ा नमक कम हो गया, अरे वाह हमारा. I am not making it up when I say the plate is like thrown from one side of the table to the other side. बड़े अपने आप को वेदांती समझते हैं. See, when it is said that you are not the body, mind and intellect, therefore you have to not pamper it, does not mean that you live in a reckless, uncouth environment. Shuchi is an integral aspect of the spiritual unfoldment. Deha Shuddhi, Vyavahara Shuddhi, Vatavarana Shuddhi, everything has to be there, but not from the sense of pampering it. Nachiketa, I tried to pamper you. And what did you do? Tvadrino bhuya Nachiketa prashta. Somebody with such depth of clarity, I have not seen an enquirer. अपने को फ्री में कुछ ऐसा मिल जाए, put ourselves in that condition. If Bhagavan were to come and say, long life, long healthy life for you, and as long as you live, for your children, grandchildren, their children, and the facilities that you can think of, the most sophisticated, the most enjoyable, true in sense of foreign, because foreign means that which is not of here, from Svargaloka directly, highest sophistication. And are you ready to give me the third boon or not? Tavaiva vaha travanritya gite. All the boons and the third boon also you keep it to yourself. If you can't give, tell me clearly. I want only this. How clear are we? How convinced are we that our nishtha to this spiritual unfoldment is unshakable, come what may? Whatever life throws at you, just as we cannot quit breathing, spiritual unfoldment cannot be quit from. Because there are many who speak about, there are many who point out saying different purposes of life. But the only purpose of human life is moksha and nothing less. According to prarabdha, dharmartha, kama continue to happen. Purushartha has to be for moksha. That clarity I saw in you and the way you asked and inquired about the truth. And it was not just a superficial ask कि बैठे हैं आप साधु लगते हो तो दो बातें बता दो स्वामी जी, दो अच्छे बातें बता दीजिए. ये टाइम पास के लिए नहीं है भैया. I think I have said this example. Usually, after the lecture, after the yajna is done, people invite Bhiksha. After having gone from 1.5 hours of lecture, then go into their house, then they say, Swami ji, अब कुछ अच्छा बोलिए. अब तक क्या मैं बकवास बोल रहा था? This is not a time pass. जैसे हमने 2 मूंगफली खा लिए, चलो भाई मिल गए हो तो बता दो कुछ अच्छी बातें, हम भी सुन लेंगे. It has to have the sincerity par excellence. And yours was not a time pass ask. It was with that sincerity. I could feel that sincerity and appreciate that sincerity. Tvandrumno bhuya nachiketa prashtha. Continuing, he says, जानाम्यहं शेवधिरित्य नित्यं न ह्यध्रुवैः प्राप्यते हि ध्रुवं तत् ततो मया नाचिकेतश्चितोऽग्निः अनित्यैर्द्रव्यैः प्राप्तवानस्मि नित्यम्. Why is Yamadharma Raja extolling the students so much? He gives the actual reason. He's talking about himself. Yamadharma Raja is talking about himself. He's saying, when I was of your age, I also had this intensity. कोई अपने जैसा स्टूडेंट मिल जाए, well, whatever you have evaluated as yourself, that itself is very pleasant experience. If somebody is a notch better than me, oh, maja hai. So he says, when I was of your age, I did not know that this pursuit has a nitya and anitya. Shevadhihi anityam. I picked that which now I know is anityam, but at that time I was attracted to it. Now I understand that those processes which invoke anitya vastu cannot give you nitya vastu. I cannot ever forget this Yuva Kendra member. He comes and says, Swamiji, after a good effort, I got a permanent job. I said, Acha, where did you get? In a temporary bank. If the bank itself is temporary, how permanent is your job in it? Right? The food that which we eat gets completely destroyed when it is kept outside in 4 or 5 hours. It completely changes its form. It starts stinking, it starts becoming sticky, and its nature is changed. That which gets destroyed in 4 or 5 hours, eating that to anticipate that this body should be permanent. There is a fellow in the Western world for the last 19-20 years. He has been spending about 20 million US dollars. And if you look at his regimen, if you look at his food, if you look at all of that, it is mind boggling. For every limb that we have, whatever is the core element that which is required, he has had scientists evaluate all of it, and the purest of the material is procured, and he consumes that. He has a very sophisticated chef, sophisticated doctors who administer his food. Now, his idea is, if the appropriate kind of things in the most purest form is provided, he can stay young forever. Yes, because of that detailed outlook, though he is about 50 plus, he looks like 20-25. Just recently, about a year ago, though the symptoms were seen about close to 8-10 years ago, finally he got to know that he has developed an autoimmune disorder where the stomach is eating itself. Kar lo baat. That which is temporary, how long can we try to keep it, maintaining it like Shashvata Tattva? All the stories of Purana, those who have keen interest and did severe tapasya to maintain Shashvatatva through the body, mind and intellect, what have we recognized them as? Asuras. Correct. So what is Asuratva? जिनके लॉजिक में न सुर है न ताल है, वो असुर है. They are trying to expect that which is perishable to be not perishing. How frustrating their life must be. If you come to accept and come to terms that this is perishable, nahi dhruvapadam adhruvaihi, you can never achieve it. Nahi adhruvaihi prapyate hi dhruvam tat. Through the adhruva tattva, you can never reach to that dhruva padam. You can never attain to it. But I did not have this understanding, Nachiketa. Tato maya, by me, that very Agni Karya which when you asked I gave you and named it as Nachiketa Agni, I was one of the first ones to perform it diligently. The punya phala of having performed it has brought me to this threshold of this so-called Nityam. From the beginning of the creation to the end of this creation, he is going to stay there in that particular position as Yama. With a reference to all that which perishes, it is Nitya. But he is himself saying sarcastically that this so-called Nitya I achieved not having the clarity, understanding, and the depth which you have at your age, I did not have it. Therefore, I truly appreciate the sense of vairagya that you bring on the table, because at your age, I considered, that is what probably is Yamadharma is saying, I considered myself as the Uttamadhikari, but I got entrapped with this, and now I am stuck here in this. Because Yama, being Yama, is a position. That Jiva rose up to become Yama because of the Punya Karma of the Nachiketa Agni. Says, Anityaihi dravyaihi praptavanasmi, with the Anitya Dravya that was used in the Nachiketa Agni, I have now reached to this, that which I considered as Nityam. Now, what else do we need? That the highest authority who is sitting on the threshold of life and death, and after, he is saying that position itself is Anityam. What to talk of anything else? This, that which we are holding on to, is it anywhere close to Nityatva? All the sense of security that we have, whether it is wealth, whether it is assets, whether it is good form, good physique, yavana, all of it is to be changed and gone. That day when we intensely come to understand and discard our moha to hold on to it, that day, even Yama will appreciate us. Okay, right? This is a worthy quality that you have understood, and now you stand in that absolute sense of viveka, that you are glowing with vairagya, that you can just drop it at the drop of a hat and move on. Once this is understood, Baba, 99% of our frustration, irritation, agitations inside are removed once and for all. It is what it is. That is how the gunas work. And I am aware that there is nothing better than this that the gunas can function in. And the best part, I am not it. I am just the observer of these changes. Nachiketa, I did not have this clarity at that age. Otherwise, I would also have pursued the highest like you are pursuing. काश मेरी बुद्धि इतनी सूक्ष्म होती तुम्हारी जैसे. Therefore, there is so much of, see, the Shishya having respect towards the Guru, we have seen, we have heard. Here, the Guru is loving the Shishya out of respect. कि भाई जो क्लैरिटी मुझे उस उम्र में नहीं था, you amazed me with that clarity. Because I fell for it. And you refuse to fall for it. What metal are you made up of? In the ashram, when we were cleaning up Gurudev's kutia right after his samadhi, there was one bundle of letters that he had communicated to one devotee. So we were segregating and filing everything in order. And that letter caught my attention. He is writing to this student. He says, I don't know what metal you are made up of, but whatever it is, if I have to pray for pray to the Ishvara for the upliftment of this Sanatana Dharma and this Hindu Rashtra. I would ask for another 400 of you. Coming from Gurudev, I was like, ये महात्मा है कौन भाई? When I did trace him, I did find him. He used to live in Bombay. उनको मणि अंकल बोलते थे. And even up to his last days, he was conducting about 15-16 study groups. चलना मुश्किल होता था. He would take his walking stick and take an auto, go and then conduct and then come back. And the rest of the time, study. There's nothing better than this. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Completely dedicated. That Gurudev had to make that statement. What quality that texture of that individual must have been. If at all I have to ask to Ishvara, I will ask 400 of you, your kind, for the Rashtrutthana. And I can connect to it because that is how probably Yamadharmaraja feels. Now, having extolled the student, the Agni Vidya, and comparing himself at that age, now he enters into the actual teaching. That we will see tomorrow. From the 11th mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.